Well, it was in December 1989. I was in Warsaw in my office at the Associated Press, and I saw on the telex that there were uprisings in Romania, in Timișoara. And I thought I was the nearest person from the AP who could go there, so I quickly booked a flight to Belgrade, rented a car. It was evening, and headed for the border. And of course, I was very excited. I'd always wanted to go to Romania, and I'd never been fortunate enough to get a visa from the Romanian government at the time. But when I got to the border, the revolution had started, and there were the border.
It was December 22.
December 22.
In the evening.
In the evening.
You arrived here in Timișoara.
I arrived
here. Go to
here.
the hotel?
I went straight to the hotel. Along the way, I could see people waving flags that the center had been cut out of. I could hear the excitement, but there was also a note of fear among the people, that they were afraid that the intelligence was going to start shooting at them. They were even afraid that there would be air raids.
You said that it was a chaos. It was paranoia and disorganization.
Yes. No one knew at that time who was in charge, and there were journalists coming in, and they were gathering in the lobby of the hotel and trying to find out what was happening. And that very first night I was there, I had along the way picked up a colleague at the border from Yugoslavia who came to the hotel, but right as we were there was a French photographer who was shot in the leg, and because we had a car, we volunteered to take them to the city hospital. So even then, in my first hours there, I had a foreshadowing of the violence. They interviewed people till 1 or 2 in the morning, and then it didn't feel safe to go back outside, so I slept on a hospital gurney in an empty room. And I don't remember the name of the head doctor in the emergency room, but
did you have food, water in the hospital?
Yeah, they gave me a little hospital, a bit of porridge or something like that. Yeah. No, it was very welcoming, and journalists from outside were being welcomed.
So this was the first night.
The first night.
In the morning.
The morning it was quiet. And
I came here in the center.
I came here in the center.
And there were people here?
People here. Still a lot of milling around. There's still a lot of flags. And there was, it was not clear who was in charge of the city. Especially the young people were full of hope and excitement that things were changing. And
there were military on the street, tanks.
There were military on the street, but I think some of the
guns.
Yes, but there were checkpoints, but I think some of the military had gone over already to the revolution at that point. I went to the Yugoslav consulate, where there were many Yugoslav journalists there, and all waiting for a single telephone line. So sat for several hours waiting for my turn.
And you spent all your day in the consulate?
Yeah, several hours, the late afternoon to the evening. And I think I was perhaps the last person to use the phone before he was closing up. I went out with the consular office, and he locked the gate behind him, and I was going to the car, and right there on that street, there was gunfire rang out. And so that was a really terrifying moment for me, because it felt like we were being shot at right there. And I managed to go to the car, and I remember it was very hard to unlock car because my hand was shaking just to get the key into the, and the adrenaline was racing. And, but finally I just had to concentrate and get in the car and threw it in reverse and started backing down the street to get away from the shooting. And there was a sort of a stop sign at the end of the street, and I didn't see it till the last moment. And then there were some people on the other side, maybe with flashlights. Then I remember it's almost like in slow motion. I could see they were shooting at me, and it was boom, 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 boom. And I could see the flames coming out of the tip of the gun. And I'm opening, I'm saying, no, 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 we're journalists. And but it happened so quickly. And the car just sort of exploded, the glass and the windows, and I felt at first what felt like someone had poured a bucket of warm liquid over my head, and I realized it was my blood. We were dragged out of the car very roughly and shouting at us, hitting on us, and they were searching our car. And I stood there, which is probably good, or sat there with my arms up. And I guess that kept the blood from running out too much from my arms by them forcing me to keep my arms up. But then when I was sitting there, I was being poked with guns, and I remember there was one crazy man with like long hair, and he had a knife, and he kept going like this, and he said, and we're going to kill you now, we're going to kill you now.
Did he hurt you with a knife?
Not really, I mean, just sort of touching me with it.
Just touching you.
Yeah, I really thought I was going to die then. I thought they were going to kill me on the street, sort of finish what they began. But as I say, in the other car, the second car behind me, was also shot, and there the photographer was shot through the chest, and they pulled him out, and he was lying on the ground, and he was sort of flopping, you know, around with this big wound that went in his front and came out his back. And I think because he looked in really terrible shape, it resulted in an ambulance coming, and the ambulance took me away as well. Even in the ambulance, they were still a little suspicious of us, and the ambulance attendants were not that kind. But then when we got to the hospital, the doctors spoke English, and they took me and they said, we're going to have to sew up your head, and then they gave me anesthesia and knocked me out. And but I do remember saying, "Oh, you're very lucky." I had a struggle to become conscious again, and I remember feeling very much like I was between life and death, and I felt like I was almost out of my body. That experience that people have, and I thought about it before. Perhaps it was just the effect of the anesthesia, but I really felt like I was in another existence at that time. But anyway, I did struggle to get my consciousness again. At some point, the Yugoslav diplomat in Timisoara walked through with a cameraman and was looking at the people who were wounded in this ward. And I was able to tell him that I was an American journalist and pleased to contact the Associated Press office in Belgrade and let them know that I was there.
When you cross the border, you said that is the happiest day of your life.
Yes, because
when you left Romania.
Yes,
you were alive.
I was alive. And even when I was in the hospital, I guess, you know, perhaps irrationally, but I didn't feel safe because there was still fighting going on in the city, and I felt vulnerable because I was wounded and couldn't move. So that's why I was so relieved to leave. And but I am very grateful to the medical personnel here who saved me. And I certainly bear no anger or ill will to the people who shot me, because I don't think they knew what they were doing, and it was, a crazy revolution going on. This is the first time I've come back, but I've always felt very connected with Romania, even though I was only here a short time, because I feel my life intersected with the history of this country. I hope that things will go forward evenly, and it's surprising when I look at you or your colleagues, and I realize that you were only children when all this happened, and you've had a whole lifetime.
5 years old.
Right, and you've had a whole lifetime to grow up and have all the advantages of being able to travel and not have to think about that, and to be able to read anything you liked, and having the whole world at your fingertips with the internet. It's a better world, I'm sure, for you than for your parents.